Hey guys, welcome to my Samoan language instruction on some and other. Before we get started, here's some vocabulary for you. Okay, so some and other, you might be saying to yourself, Colin, why are we talking about some? We already know what some is in Samoan, and that's ni. Ni is some. And that would be true, but there's other ways of expressing the word ni, or some, I guess. And that was actually a determiner back in basic grammar video. So we're going to be kind of taking that principle of ni that we learned clear back in basic grammar 2 and expanding on it in this video. And we're also going to learn how to say other. So the notion of some and other, so these two words is what we're going to be working on today, obviously. And the way that you say that in Samoan is isi, okay? And so you might be saying, well, you told us ni, but just hear me out, okay? So isi is the way that you say some and other in Samoan, okay? And the nice thing about EC may act as a noun or a determiner, okay? So it may act as a noun or a determiner, okay? So if you don't remember what a determiner is, I hope you remember what a noun is. A noun is a person, place, or thing. And a determiner is something that determines the plurality and whether something is specific or non-specific. Most often it's going to be a noun that it comes before, okay? So when you see EC, it's going to act as a noun or it's going to come right before a noun, okay? So as a determiner, EC, I guess we're down here, EC precedes nouns and possessive pronouns, but it follows the articles lay, say, and ni. So these are other determiners that we learned from basic grammar 2. Okay, so EC will come before nouns and pronouns, but it follows these circled articles or determiners, lay, say, and ni. And when EC follows ni, we kind of learned about ni in that the two contract to nisi. So we get nisi to mean some. Okay, so ni was an oversimplification of the word some. Sometimes ni can mean some. Okay, but and I'm sorry I didn't get that quite in there. So sometimes ni can act as some. What ni actually translates to is it's just a determiner, and it determines that the noun or pronoun that follows it is plural and non-specific or indeterminate. Okay, and so now we're going to kind of figure out some new ways on how to say some, and also the addition of ec that can mean other as well. Okay, so when we're thinking of EC as acting as a determiner, okay, remember determiner comes before a noun or a pronoun or noun phrase, okay? And so when we see EC by itself, it usually means other, okay? So usually when I see EC, it usually means other. And here's some examples for you. So where is the other box? So right here we'd use the word EC. Bring another, we're using a and other as one in the English terms. And we do the same thing. We put a and other together just like they do in English, another. And his other radio. So these all are going to use EC. Okay, so let's just focus on the first sentence. The first sentence says, where is the other box? Okay, so what I need to do is I need to say, okay, where comes first. So that's ofea. Okay. Is the other box, okay? And so in Samoan, I kind of say it the same way. I say where the other box. I don't have a word for is really. So where the other box, and so I use an article lay right there. So the, and then other comes after it. So I put lay other, and our word for other in Samoan is ec, okay? And then hopefully you remember the word for box, and if you don't, that's pusa, okay? So that's how I think of that question word. And let's move on to the next sentence. So bring another book. So another, if you think about it, is just two different things contracted into one. So it's and other. And to be grammatically correct in English, whenever I have the word and a word that comes after it that starts with a vowel, like O, then I put an, and then all I do is I just contract those two things. I do the same thing in Samoan when I want to say another, and so I just say another is say, is or an, and ec is other, and I just that acts as another, okay? So what I do before that is I just, excuse me, so bring comes before that, so that's au mai, and then like we said, another is contracted to the two different articles into one, so say isi, and then you should know what book is, and that's 2c. Okay, so his other radios are bad. In other words, his other radios are not working, okay? So I'm going to start out with my sentence structure, tense marker, then I'm going to use the bad, the thing that's describing my radio condition, okay? And if you don't remember what that is, then that is an adjective. And so in this case, I don't have any verbs, but I do have an adjective that's taking place for my predicate phrase. So I do my tense marker, so this is a habitual tense. So I use the habitual tense marker A. And then bad, the thing that's circled, is acting as my predicate phrase because there's a lack of a verb in this sentence. But my adjective, the thing that's describing the condition of the radio or the noun, is leanga, so that'll come right after that. And then I have a object of the sentence, and what would that be? Well, radio or radios is the object of the sentence. So all I have to do is put that after, right? Well, no, I have a couple of things in here that I need to put before that. I have this thing that I told you, EC. I have EC that comes before nouns and possessive pronouns, okay? And then it also, EC will also come after, it'll come after these articles le, se, and e. And so how many articles how many radios does he have? He has a plural amount, okay, and it's his radios that we're talking about. So we have a possessive pronoun here, his, and so we're going to have to use the plural version of his, and we're going to have to use other radios. We're talking about other radios. So the way that I say that, so I say EC, that comes before my object, which is la'au, which is radio, and then I also put that after my possessive pronoun, it comes before my possessive pronoun, and that's ana, and that is the plural version of his, okay? So hopefully that's making sense, and we're going to move on. If you do need to go back and rewind, I encourage you to do that now, okay? So as a determiner, okay, so now we're talking about nisi. Nisi normally conveys the word some. So remember, determiners come before nouns and noun phrases and pronouns as well. And so when I think of nisi, it usually means the word some. So there's two different ways I can use the word some. Sometimes I can just use ni, and that can kind of act as the word some, but the actual and probably the most appropriate word for some is nisi. Okay, so some people came to church. So notice that I have my some. It's coming before a noun. Okay, people is a person, place, or thing. And then bring some pencils. I have this again. This is coming before a noun. So the only way that we've talked about EC and nisi so far is acting as determiners. And the next page we're going to they're going to be acting as the nouns or noun phrases themselves. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Right now we're just talking about EC and nisi as determiners. Determining the plurality of the noun, or the indefinite or definite portion of the noun. Okay, so some people came to church. So I have a verb in this sentence, so I'm going to use my basic sentence structure. And so what tense am I speaking in here? Came indicates to me that it's a past tense, so I'm going to say either saw or na. And in this case, I can see when they came. They came at a specific time, so I'm going to be using na in this case. And then the thing that comes after that is the predicate phrase, and I have a verb in this sentence, so I'm going to use the plural version of come, which is na o mai, okay? And if it was just one person, I wouldn't use o mai, I'd use sao, but this is indicating a multiple amount of people. And then I need to put my doer, right? Or the subject of the sentence. No, in this case, I need to put nisi before, because nisi comes before, okay? So that's what some of these later sentence structures, it doesn't quite fit the sentence structure that we've talked about, but if you remember, we've always had to put articles before our objects or our subjects. And we're just saying that EC is another form of those. We're just saying EC comes before our subject, okay? So hopefully you can just remember as EC as an additional determiner or article that comes before the subject or the doer, okay? So let's kind of just remember that some people, so nisi tangata, okay? That whole thing right there that I've highlighted is acting as the subject of the sentence, and that means some people, okay? So I'm doing my tense marker, verb, subject, but I do in some cases have to put an article before my subject. And we've done that before. We're just adding another one, EC or nisi, okay? And then we do our prepositional phrase, to church. And in Samoan, I say ile lotu for to church, okay? Awesome. So bring some pencils, please. So then I just start out with my sentence. I don't have, it's not a traditional sentence structure. This is more of a command. And we're going to get into this a little bit more, but this is kind of just helping you get used to the idea that I can do a command and I don't need a tense marker in that sentence. And so ao mai is the word for bring, and then some pencils, please. And in Samoan, it sounds like the exact same sentence structure in English, okay? So some pencils is just going to do nisi penitala, and then please is fa'a mole mole, okay? So just remember when I say commands or some kind of sentence similar to a command, I don't need a tense marker. I don't need to follow the normal tense marker, subject, verb, or vice versa, depending on what kind of pronouns you're using. But we'll get into that more in the future, okay? So I encourage you to pause the video if you need to and review what's not making sense. Okay, so then we're going to think about EC acting as a noun, where it's not going to come before a noun like the determiners did on the last page. It's going to act as the noun itself. And so when EC acts as a noun, it mostly means some people or someone or somebody, okay? Or sometimes it means something that the context suggests otherwise, okay? So when you see EC and you don't see a noun following it, then it usually means some people, someone, or somebody. So here's some more questions. So this is going to be kind of another command sentence. Ask somebody else. So we're just going to say the word for ask, and that is facili. And then another. I want you to think of somebody as another way of saying another. And so I just say isi, to another. Okay, ask to another is kind of the way that I'm saying that in Samoan. Okay. Now, perhaps the others will go to the meeting, okay? We kind of have talked about perhaps, so that's masalo. And now I use my normal sentence structure. I do have a verb in here. I'm not making a command, okay? So I'm just stating an opinion right here. So I say masalo, and then I use my normal sentence structure, okay? The others will go to the meeting. The will indicates to me right here that it's a future tense, so that's why I put the olea right here. And then the go, I'm talking about a plural amounts of people, so I say oatu. And then the others is acting as, perhaps the others is acting as the subject. And then that is just isi. Because in Samoan, I don't need to do the others, I just say isi. And then my prepositional phrase that ends the sentence is going to be to the meeting. And in Samoan, I just say ilefono. And technically, if you wanted to, this part right here should probably be the E with the glottal right before it. But you'll see that omitted plenty of times. So you should start to get used to that idea of not seeing a glottal every time a glottal should appear. Okay? So then, we're also going to be talking about nisi acting as a noun, and when I see nisi, it usually means something like several people or things, okay? So it kind of means more than ec when it acts as a noun. Okay, so let's kind of look at these English sentences. So several in that house were sick. So the several right here is acting as my subject, okay, or the doer, okay, or the object in this case, I guess. And so I use my normal sentence structure. In that house were sick. The were indicates to me that it's a past tense. So I'm going to say na or sa, but in this case it needs a na. And then sick, I'm going to use the version of sick, but I'm going to use the plural version of sick. So that's mamai. If it was just one person, it'd be mai. And then the thing that comes right after that is nisi. So the nice thing about nisi and isi when they act as nouns, they just follow the verb or the predicate phrase, and I don't have to worry about putting something else in it. When I was worrying about it as a determiner, it had to come before the noun or the subject that it was determining. So that's the nice thing. I have the subject that's just nisi in this case, and in that house is acting as my prepositional phrase, and so that comes at the end in Samoan, ila na fale. Okay, so then in this sentence, again, I have several acting as my subject and spoke in that service. So spoke indicates to me a past tense. So I use sa or na, and in this case it needs a sa. And then spoke is my verb, so that'll be launga. And then the subject, again, the nice thing, again, like I said, is when you use isi and nisi as a subject, then it doesn't need anything other than just that coming right after, okay? And then in the service is my prepositional phrase, and that's ile sauninga, okay? So hopefully this is making sense to you. If it's not, then I encourage you again once more to pause, rewind where needed, okay? So moving on, so some sentences have some and other in it, okay? So expressions such as some, other, or one, other are often conveyed in Samoan when using isi or nisi to stand for both words, okay? So study the following examples. So I know that might not make sense, but just think of having a sentence that starts with some, and then you say something about the some, and then the other, and then you say something, or the same could go for this. And so hopefully these examples kind of clear up any, clarify, I don't think that's a word, sorry. So I hope these examples kind of clear up some confusion that you might have. So some went to that meeting, but others came to this meeting. One of them served a mission in Samoa, but the other served in New Zealand. And I got some books from the store, but other books from that store. So we're talking about these types of sentences, okay? And so in Samoan, you'll know that when I have a sentence like this, some and other, in the same sentence, instead of saying nisi and then isi, you just pick one of the two and you use it for both, okay? You don't just say nisi and then you switch to isi in the middle of the sentence in these types of sentence. You pick one and then you use it for both. And I'm sure there are cases where you'll hear some Samoans use nisi at the beginning of the sentence and isi in the second part of the sentence. But for the most part, you'll see it just as isi, or nisi. Okay? So let's kind of try to translate these together. So some went to that meeting, but the others came to this meeting. So I'm going to use my normal sentence structure. So some went to that meeting. Went is indicating a past tense. So I'm going to say na. Okay. And then it also is indicating the verb. So I have oatu. So I'm just going to highlight all of that as going as went. And then some went to that meeting, but the others came to this meeting. So what is my subject in this verb for the first part before the comma? That would be some. Some is acting as my subject. And so all I need to do now is put isi right after that. It's not acting as a determiner. It's acting as the noun itself. And I'm having a hard time circling that. Just note that there's an I right after that. So now watu isi, to that meeting, would be to that meeting is my prepositional phrase, and that's ilana phono. Okay? So that's how I translate the first part of the sentence. Now the second part of the sentence is but, and we should know the word for but is I. Okay? And now I just do another sentence structure. The others came to this meeting, so I use isi in the beginning of the sentence structure. Now I'm going to use isi in the second part of the sentence structure, even though they both they have kind of different meanings, some and other. But this is the way that we do it in Samoan. So the others came. This is the thing that's indicating to me what I need to start off the next sentence. So that's another past tense. And so that's going to be na. And then came also indicates my verb. And then who's the one acting as the subject? That would be others. Okay. And so that's isi again. And then to this meeting is going to act as the prepositional phrase. And that's I lane phono. Okay. So hopefully this review is kind of helping, and all we're doing is we're replacing the subject with isi, okay, or nisi. So one of them served a mission in Samoan, but the other served in New Zealand, okay. And so the one thing I will say is that when I'm doing a sentence structure like one or other, kind of like in this sentence one, but the other, I'm going to use EC, okay? And that's just my personal preference, but if you remember EC back here, well, let's do this. EC is kind of like some people, but it could also be someone, okay? But when I think of Nisi, it's usually several people or things, okay? So when I'm just going to do one and then the other sentence structure that I'm talking about in this sentence structure, here, what I'm saying, when I'm going to do one served a mission and the other served in New Zealand, okay, I'm going to use EC instead of Nisi. And then when I see it as more people than just a few, then I'm going to probably do Nisi. Okay, that's just my personal preference, and that's what I've probably seen more of. But you can probably get away with doing Nisi. But I think EC probably works better for this sentence structure when you have the one or other and then the one. Okay, so let's do this again. I served kind of indicates to me a past tense, so I'm going to say saw, and then also that's my verb. So fa'amisiona is the way that I say served. There's other ways that you can say it. Sa ave. But you'd have to do a little bit of a different sentence structure if you said ave. I took my mission, or he took his mission. So if I did it sa ave, let's rewrite this. So instead of the way that I wrote it, you could say sa ave, can't spell, ave e ia, and in that way I wouldn't be saying, or I could say a leisi. Okay, so ave e leisi instead of the way that I've written it out. Okay, so sa fa misiona leisi i Samoa, or I could say sa ave e leisi i Samoa. Okay, so either way, whichever your preference is. And then again, I have my determiner, leisi. This leisi is talking about a singular person. Le is my singular and my definite person. And so when I say leisi, it's going to be one. It's going to be like kind of one of them in that case. Okay? So just remember, when I have le preceding isi, I'm talking about a singular person. Okay? And then I'll also see this the leisi again, and that's going to mean the other. Okay? So we're talking about one of the two served in Samoa, and then the other of the two served in New Zealand. Okay, so just remember, when lei comes before EC, we're talking about singular amounts of people. E Samoa, that's going to be my prepositional phrase, and then but is I. Okay, and then the other served in New Zealand, I start over my sentence structure. So served again indicates to me sa fa misiona, or I could do the sa ave, and then the other is going to be my subject right here, okay, and that's leisi, the other. In New Zealand is going to be my prepositional phrase, I New Zealand, okay? So one more sentence, and I got some books from this store, but the other books from that store. So I'm talking about a multiple amount. So this case, I could use EC, but this, just so you know, Nisi acts the same way. I got some books from this store, but other books from that store. This could also mean I got several books from this store, but other books from that store, or several other books from that store. Okay, either one, but this is the way that you could translate this. Okay, so sa o maua is the way that I present my sentence. So tense marker, subject, I got some books. And in this case, Nisi is acting as a determiner. So in this case, I have saw as the past tense. So I got is indicating my past tense. And then who's the one doing the subject, who's the subject is I, so I have O, okay? Some books is the thing that, some books right here is going to be the object in this sentence, and so it comes after, so I got, what I should have said is, so the past tense is saw. Let's make this a little more clear. So the past tense is saw because I got some books. And then I'm using my descriptive pronouns, so I'm doing that before the verb. And so that's going to be I, which is O. And then got is going to be the verb right here. And then the thing that's acting as the object is some books and nisi tusi. Okay? So hopefully that helped a little bit more than the first explanation. Sorry for that. From this store is going to be my prepositional phrase, mai lana fale oloa, okay? But other books from that store. And I could say I or the way that I'm indicating to it is a-o. So I'm doing while I got some other books from that store. So a-o is, in this case, is while. That's one way I could translate it, or I could just say but is I, like I've been doing that in the last two sentences. But again, we're going to redo the sentence structure here. But the other books from that store, and in this case, I don't really have a normal sentence structure. I don't have a tense in this part of the sentence. So I'm just going to start off with nisi tusi mai lanafa leloa. So I'm just going to do it the way that I wrote it out in English, okay? And a lot of times you can do that. So other books is going to be, let me get rid of that line. So other books, again, other is acting as a determiner because it's coming before the noun. So nisi tusi. And then from is my, okay? And then that store is lana fale ola. Okay, so hopefully these building these sentences together has helped. We're kind of running short on time, so I'm going to start to speed things up a little bit. So just so you know, here's some things that you need to remember. So when nisi and ec, so when they act as determiners, ec normally means other or others, and nisi normally means some. Okay. And EC and EC follow articles, so those articles are lay, say, and ni, okay? But they precede possessive pronouns in most cases, or just normal nouns in most cases, okay? And then when nisi and EC act as nouns, EC normally means some person or persons or objects, and nisi normally means several people or objects. And then also EC or nisi is used to convey English expressions one, other, or other one, and you just pick one of the two and use it for both, okay? So then here's some example sentences, practice sentences. I would like you to work on these and pause the video. Okay, so you might not have gotten exactly what I got, but hopefully you got something very similar. And then if you didn't get exactly what I got, then I want you to wonder, why did he do what he did? Why did he write what he wrote down, okay? And then now I'm going to just read a little story to you. And the hope is that, again, you'll be able to understand most of it. And so I'm going to read it and try to understand as much of it as you can. And then if you can't understand a lot of it, then I'm going to give you the written portion. And here we go. So, sa oatu elder simi manisi faifiao, ile fale oloa ile taiao. Sa lato fia faatau mai nisi mea, sa iai ile fale oloa ni pulumo nifo lanu viole. Sa fia simi malana soa o sale i na pulumo nifo manaya. Sa faatau loa e simi le isi pulumo nifo, ai sa faatau e sale le isi pulumo nifo. Sa faatau e isi faifiao ni sele uli uli. Na manao fo'i sa le I se selu uli uli, ai sa le ai se mea na tatoi. Sa whaatau fo'i e simi nisi penitala. Sa sama-sama isi ai sa lanu moana isi. I le awa uli sa watu ai whaiwhiau i le potu vāsenga. Sa awa unisi i le whaasamoa ai sa awa isi I isi mea. So I know that was a little bit of a tricky paragraph. It didn't really have a lot of structure to it. It just had a lot of principles that we've been working on lately, and I was hoping that you would be able to pick up on those. Here is what that paragraph looked like, and hopefully you're going to be able to understand it. For time's sake, I'm not going to translate it for you in English, but you should be able to translate this now that you've heard it and that you can see it. So I encourage you to go through this exercise so that you can concrete some of the ideas that we've taught you into your mind. Okay? Tō whā soifua.